welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about England, man, because after that draw against Slovenia today that ended 0-0, they have officially completed all their group stage games at Euro 2024. And there's no way, if you're an England fan, after watching those three games, you can say you're proud of this team. There's just no way in hell, man. England, through 3 games of this tournament, have been utter shit. There's no other adjective I can use to describe this England team thus far. You played Denmark, Serbia, and Slovenia, and you played terribly all 3 of those games. All 3 of those games, you were so poor. You actually got progressively worse as the games went on. How is that possible? And usually, bro, I don't get this riled up talking about a team that I don't support. Usually when you guys see me upset or ranting, it's because I'm talking about Barca, because obviously that's my team. I have no fucking ties to England. I'm not English. I don't care if they win. I don't care if they lose, okay? I don't hate watching it. I don't love watching it. I don't care about England whatsoever. If they lose in the round of 16, I won't care. If they win the final, I won't care. Because again, I don't have any ties to this team. I'm neutral with England. I don't care about them at all. But you know what I do care about? The fact that I see these players that are all world-class. What makes me so upset is that I see all these world-class players on this England team, and I see these shit performances after shit performances after shit performances, and that's just not normal, bro. They are the worst first place team at this tournament thus far. No other team comes close to being that bad. On paper, they might be the best, but when it comes to like the way that they play, oh my god, bro. And again, France doesn't look good at this tournament at all. Portugal have had their ups and downs, even though they looked better last game. So the big boys in this tournament have kind of slipped up a little bit. Even Germany against Switzerland didn't look that good. But again, England, in my opinion, have a better squad than all those teams. They just have a better squad. On paper, the England team is so good. You have so many world-class talents, and you have no idea how to utilize them. And look, for me, man, part of me wants to blame this on Gareth Southgate, and I will get to Gareth Southgate later on in this video because he bears a lot of culpability when it comes to the way that England have been underperforming at this tournament. But then part of me also says, I've been watching England at major tournaments for a long time, okay? I've watched them before Southgate, I've watched them with Southgate. And in my lifetime, England have always underperformed. Whether it was with Capello, whether it was with Roy Hodgson, and now with Gareth Southgate. You guys remember that team in Euro 2016 in France that lost to Iceland in the round of 16 that had a young Dele Alli, a prime Dele Alli. You had a young and prime Harry Kane. You had Jamie Vardy coming off a league-winning season with Leicester, being one of the most informed strikers in the world. You had a young Eric Dyer. You had a young Kyle Walker. You had all these good players. I mean, a good squad. And you lose to Iceland, like I said. And now this year, it looks like you're going to underperform once again with a much better team than you had in 2016. But again, maybe it's just the history of England that every time they get to these major tournaments, they just don't know what to do, bro. They have no idea how to fucking play. It's like all their players just drop in form. All these players that we saw be world-class for their clubs, whether it was Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham or Phil Foden or name the player, they've all looked worse. Much worse. It's like the chemistry in fucking FIFA. It's like they're all on 3 cam. They have no idea how to pass the ball. It's like they all have 2 left feet. It's embarrassing to watch, man. Honestly, it is. And like this game against Slovenia specifically, it was a snooze fest. But we saw in this game, England looked better in the second half. Why? Because Kobbie Mainoo came in. And Kobbie Mainoo is one of the most technically gifted youngsters. Actually, fuck youngsters. One of the most technically gifted midfielders or players in the world. Everybody was blaming Trent because, oh, he's not a midfielder, he's not good in that position. Yes, I agree, Trent's not good in that position, but he shouldn't have been the scapegoat for this team because Trent is not a back-to-goal player. Playing him like that, you're basically neutering him. That's not how you should play Trent. So people blaming Trent, it's not his fault, it was Southgate's fault for playing him in that position. And then you bring in Conor Gallagher, who, look, bro, I think Conor Gallagher is an overrated player. That's just my opinion. I don't think he's a good player at all. Actually, no, that's a little too far. I think he's a decent player, but a lot of times when I watch Chelsea and I watch Conor Gallagher, he looks like a headless chicken, just running around. What is he doing? A lot of times he just runs. He was awful in that first half, and then he comes off at halftime, and Kobbie Mainoo comes in, and what do we see from England? A much better second half where the attack looked much more fluid. But then Southgate fucking sits on his hands and waits until the 83rd minute to make his next sub. When he brings on Trent for Kieran Trippier. And again, that brings me to Kieran Trippier. England's biggest problem right now is their fullback. He's not a left back, bro. He's been so bad. Kieran Trippier has had a stinker of a tournament. He had that cross in the first half, right before halftime that obviously Kane couldn't get his head on. That was a good cross, but for the most part, that whole left side of England's attack has been terrible because you don't have an actual good left back there. Trippier he's not a good left back, and this team is missing Luke Shaw, but again, that should not be an excuse to play this poorly against Slovenia, Denmark, and fucking Serbia. If you're playing Germany, I say okay. If you're playing Spain, I say okay. If you're playing France, I say okay. I'll give that to you. But against Slovenia, Serbia, and Denmark, and again, I'm not trying to disrespect these countries because they came out and they fought, man. They fought. Honestly, they did. But again, I'm talking about the team on paper. England are so much better. You should not be struggling against teams like this. And, you know, people talk about, oh, Bellingham, he had a stinker. He did have a stinker. Bellingham's been poor throughout the last 2 games. But when I look at Jude Bellingham, I just see a guy who looks uncomfortable on the pitch, they don't know how to utilize Jude Bellingham. And I think Jude Bellingham is a 10. I don't think Jude Bellingham's not a 10. Everybody's saying Jude Bellingham's not a 10, he's an 8. Bellingham can play an 8 and he can play as a 10. Bellingham is one of the most creative-minded players in the world. If you watch him at Madrid, a lot of those final third, like in the final third, he was basically coordinating a lot of those attacks. Is that the best word to use? I just had to that's minus like 5,000 aura right there with that stutter. He was a conductor for a lot of those attacks. If you watched him at Madrid, so Bellingham can play as a 10 in my opinion. But when you have fucking Harry Kane dropping into midfield, who is he supposed to feed the ball to? You have no threats in behind on this team. You know who would help? Oh, maybe a guy like Marcus Rashford. Who, say what you want about him, and he had a poor season for United, he's still a guy who can make threats in behind and who can threaten you in transition. And that's something that Phil Foden can't do playing on the left. Because Phil Foden is not a fucking left winger. It's just not his position. And like throughout this tournament, bro, it just seems like every single time England take the field, it looks like their players have no instruction, no clear vision of what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to mark, where they're supposed to occupy space. It seems to me like they have no idea. It's like Southgate goes in there and gets a bunch of broccoli, puts it in his mouth, and does the halftime talk with broccoli in his mouth, with a fucking handful of broccoli, and no one can understand a word he's saying, honestly, because there's no way this is what he's telling them in the locker room. It's embarrassing to watch. And again, bro, I have no ties to this team, but I am a football fan, and I like watching good football. And when I see players like in the England squad, and I see that much talent in that starting 11, I expect to come on and watch a game and be entertained, at least be entertained. And all the England fans, and again, I'm not an England fan. I want to specify when I say this, I'm not an England fan. I have no ties to this team. But all the England fans that I see sometimes on social media talking about, why are you complaining? We made it first in the group, and you know we played well. We didn't play well, but you know it's results that matter. We still went through first. It's international football. All that matters is the result, not how you play. That's a bunch of bullshit, bro. Because you can have that excuse in the round of 16, in the quarterfinals, in the semifinals, in the final if you win the whole thing. But in the group stages, bro, you scored 2 goals and conceded 1. You had a goal difference of 1. You scored 2 goals. 2 goals with Harry Kane, with Jude Bellingham, with Phil Foden, all guys who scored 20 plus goals in their club season. I mean, Cole Palmer comes on way too late once again. He should not be coming on that late because he can't make an impact coming on that late. What changes would I make for England? Look, bro, I would keep Bellingham as a 10. I'd play Anthony Gordon at left wing. I would play Anthony Gordon at left wing. I don't think Foden's working. And again, I think Phil was a little bit better today, and he's been better over the past 2 games because he was poor, really, really poor the first game against Serbia. But I think you got to play Anthony Gordon. I mean, he's a really good player. He was on great form towards the end of the year. He was one of the. You could argue he was Newcastle's best player, definitely in the top 3. Obviously, there's some other guys in there like Bruno and Isak, but he was definitely in that conversation. And you got to play him on the left wing. You got to try something different. But you know, knowing Southgate, he's going to come out with the same lineup for the next game, whoever they play in the round of 16. And this team's not going to make any noise at this tournament, man. If this team makes a quarterfinal or a semifinal, it'll be a miracle, in my opinion. It's unacceptable the way that England have been playing throughout these games. And again, when you have this much star power, when you have this much firepower, you should expect more from a team like this. You should 100% expect more from a team like this. And again, for me, I don't know if I could just blame Gareth Southgate alone because, again, I've seen England underperform throughout my whole lifetime at international tournaments. This is not the first time I've seen it. Okay, like I said, I saw it at Euro 2016. I saw it in the World Cup in 2014. I saw it in the World Cup in 2010. You know, I've seen it throughout my life. And I'm not even that old, bro. I can't imagine, and I'm not even an England fan. I can't imagine older England fans who've watched this team since the fucking 80s and how much they've underperformed with all these great players. It's just unacceptable, man. It is unacceptable for England to play like this. And again, I think that this team, I would say they need a wake-up call, but I think if you haven't woken up after the first 3 games, you're never going to wake up. You're never going to wake up and play better. Like, if those games didn't wake you up, when is it going to wake you up? When you're officially knocked out of the tournament when there's no going back? Because in this time, you at least got lucky. You made it out of the group stage and you got first place. But if you would have had a harder group, oh my God, bro! If they would have been in Croatia, Italy, Albania, and Spain's group, if they would have, like, let's just say Italy's not in that group and it's England instead, they would have been knocked out. They would be out of this tournament, in my opinion, not even qualified as a 3rd place team because that's how poor they've been. So England have been a disgrace at this tournament, man. And again, when you come into a tournament with so much promise, man, after making the final of the Euro in 2021, losing a heartbreaker to France. Obviously, in the World Cup in 2022, you're building towards something. Making the semifinal of the World Cup in 2018, you know, semifinal, final, quarterfinal, losing to France because Harry Kane missed a penalty. You expect this team to build, you know, and look better and gain confidence, but it seems like they've shrunk in confidence, and I don't understand why. Again, I think the back line overall, I think Gahey's had a good tournament. I think Stones has had a good tournament. I think Kyle Walker, I would play Trent at right back personally because you're not playing Mbappe every single fucking game. So you don't need Kyle Walker out there because half of the time going forward, he's not doing anything. So why don't you have a more offensive threat in Trent there that can actually do something going forward, that can actually put some pressure on that defense and can make those overlapping runs. Why don't you have that instead of having Kyle Walker out there, who again, you're not playing. If you come up against France, you can play Kyle Walker and he can try and deal with Mbappe. Good luck with that, man. I mean, I would love to see Kyle Walker. I mean, I think Kyle Walker's still a good defender, but he's obviously a little bit past it. But again, this whole thing about Kyle Walker, you're not playing fucking Mbappe every game. You're not playing Vini every game. You're not even going to play Vini at all because Vini's playing in the Copa America. So it's not going to happen. So at least play Trent. Try something different. But again, Southgate's not going to change anything. And I think, like I said, the back line for England has been decent. Today, they barely, like, they've been sound, man. Honestly, they have been. Pickford has had a decent tournament. He's made a couple big saves. But again, the left back is a problem. The left wing is a problem. And your striker is a problem. Harry Kane has been dreadful this tournament. Why we haven't seen Ollie Watkins or even Ivan Toney make an appearance, I don't understand why. I think Ollie Watkins could provide a lot more. Ollie Watkins looked good. He had a chance when he came in against Denmark in the last game. And Harry Kane has been doing nothing. So try something. Grow a pair of balls. Just grow a pair of balls. Stop being, like, this is probably your last tournament for England. You might as well put all your chips in the middle of the table and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, at least you can hold your head up high and say, at least I fucking tried, bro. At least I tried to do something different. But if you keep doing the same shit over and over, your only change in this game was swapping out Trent for Gallagher, and we all knew Trent was never the problem. So you changed fucking nothing. In reality, you didn't change anything. Because Gallagher is not a guy he's not gonna be a guy who wins. Like, this whole shit about Calvin Phillips, Conor Gallagher, like, yes, they're good players. They can do a job in that midfield. You have Kobe Mainoo, bro. This guy carried a United midfield for the whole second half of the season. He's one of the best youngsters in the world. You play him in that position because we saw as soon as he came in, the game completely flipped. It completely flipped like that. So again, for me, that's just all I have to say. If you're an England fan, man, and you're watching this video, I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. There's no way, man. I don't think anybody should be proud. Maybe it's the Barca fan in me that I'm more focused on the way that the team plays other than the result. But man, when you look at this, there's no way you should be happy with that. Because you know if you would have gotten a tougher group, you would be out right now. And that's inexcusable for England because England should at least make the semifinals of this tournament. At the very, very least. And we'll see what happens. We'll see who they play in the next round. But again, I just want to rant about England. Again, I don't really do this when it's not Barca. But again, as a football fan, a guy who loves the sport so much, seeing that team and seeing that starting 11 on paper be so talented and seeing those performances, it just seems like it's a disservice to football fans in the world. And I just want to come on here and talk about it. If you guys agree or disagree, please let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, man, I love every single one of you. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.